Recording. 1 second, I will pin you. Then we can.
So I'm Ark Kormakar from BSc second year. I'm going to present about freedom operator and I'll give some applications at the end, which is not part of the syllabus, I guess, from the linear elliptic feeding. But mainly I follow what is done there in Sundar's book. Like I'll continue for Deepak lecture. So you know that this freedom operator is like looks like up to conjugation is like I identity plus some compact operator. So you can if you topologize B H1 comma H2 with a norm topology. So it is natural question to ask is that how does the space F H1 H2 look like? And what is the value of the function like index? Like is it like locally continuous or is like the rank operator? Like you can find some analysis to index the rank operator. So we'll answer this question by this theorem first. It's open set in the B H1 comma H2.
Can you zoom a bit?
Oh, sure. Uh,
Yeah,
is it
fine.
clear?
This is fine. This is fine.
Okay, so the first question, so how do you know? All you see our structure is that if H1 comma H2 is an open set in B H comma H2, and plus that this int is a like index function which is like rank of kernel of T minus kernel of T star is locally constant function, which means that like if you fix a point, if you fix an operator T, and then you can find a delta size that whenever T naught is less than delta, then the index of T naught, the T naught is constant, T naught is also freedom, and this index of T naught is same as index of T. And second one is that moreover, like if you add a compact operator to T, then it will also be a freedom operator. But this follows from the theorem that you did before. But what is the important part is that index will be also the same. And the third is that when you compose freedom operator with the freedom operator, then the index just add up, and that also becomes a freedom operator. What it also prove like next is that like in particular this index function is injective and each path connected component gives a component like each value of each n is path connected, but that will show in the next section. So for the like I'll give a sketch, but I'll tell all the details verbally. What I written is just a sketch, right? But I'll tell all it. So first thing that as a notation, let n1 be the kernel of let t0 be a freedom operator and let n1 be the kernel and n2 be the kernel of t0 star. So you can think of T naught as operator from this N1 direct sum M1 to N2 direct sum M2, where M2 is like her defined M1 and M2. It is proved in the course before that this N1 and N1 and M1 are direct sum of each other. Yeah. Which is basis is follows from definition that T naught takes the from 0 0 comma 0 0 0 D naught, or D naught comma M2 is D naught is a map from M1 to M2. Now, D naught is invertible because when you restrict this to M1, it's an injective bounded operator. So it's invertible. Hence by the openness, since the invertible operators are open, because like that is also proved before in the class, there is a delta psi that whenever D naught is in D naught minus D is
Range
less
is
than,
closed. You are using range is closed, no?
yeah, range is closed plus is bounded, so that's why it is invertible. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, range is closed. Yeah, because
yeah,
range is closed, it's invertible. The
yeah, it's
invertible.
invertible. Yeah. Because by this closed graph theorem, we can construct an inverse type. We can set theory construct inverse, and then it's continuous. So by the openness of the invertible operator, because the GLA is open, there is delta psi that whenever D naught minus D is less than delta, D is invertible. So let T be any operator such that T naught minus D is less than delta. So using the same decomposition that you wrote, so write T as A, B, C, D. So then this thing, if this D minus D naught is less than delta. So by a lemma that Deepak proved in the last presentation, we have this A minus BD inverse C is in freedom operator because this N1 and N2 are finite dimensional. So by the same lemma, we have this index of T is equal to dimension of N1 minus dimension of N2, which is by definition is equal to index of T2. So this proves the first part that the index is locally constant because anything that is in the delta neighborhood have the same index, and it also shows that freedom is open because anything that is in a real delta neighborhood is also a freedom operator. So for the second part, this T plus K is clear because in any freedom operator is equal to identity plus some compact. So compact plus compact is compact. So T plus K is compact. But for the second part, they show that the index is same. So define the function phi from 0 to C by this phi of T is equal to index of T plus Tk, like capital T plus small tk. So this is locally constant function on defined in connected space. So by connectedness, this must be constant on the interspace, and hence int of T is equal to this int of phi of 0 is int of T is equal to phi of 0 equal to phi upon that is equal to int of T plus K. And for the Laplace, that the trick is to like the Laplace the trick is to write R as something that is very close to that, and then use the local continuous index. So define this operator U. So decompose like construct this spaces K1 and K2 like as the dx around these two, and define these three operators. Or choose epsilon such that this thing R is a Feldman operator. And this is possible since this T and S are Feldman, and so if you look at the operator T dx sum S, that is a Feldman operator. So just pick epsilon such that the operator number of distance like the since so you can pick, and since the piece of Feldman is open, so you can find that epsilon size that epsilon neighborhood of this T direct sum S is also in the Feldman, also a Feldman operator. So pick epsilon size that this R is also Feldman, and then with the same epsilon construct U and T. Now, this is also something that since the diagonal elements are invertible, this is also something that people proved that U must be also invertible and V must also be invertible. Right. So in particular, the index of U or V same as the index of R. That's follows from the definition of the index. Now the index. Now note that U or V is equal to 0 IH2, HT. Hence, by the definition of the index, since IH2 is invertible, index of HT is same as index of R because of the local continuous, which is same as the index of S plus index of T. So now we give a concrete example on how the kinetic components of this Feldman operator looks for a separable space, a separable infinite dimensional space. So first thing for when the space is finite dimensional, then the index is bounded because like the rank of like it can range from n to minus n, where n is the dimension of your space. But when it's infinite, like in particular separable, it can attain all possible values. So illustrated by the like since any separable Hilbert space is like isometrically isomorphic to L square, so that's set take our space to be L square. And so let S be the shift operator. By Atkinson's theorem, this S is Feldman operator. And by the if you follow the definition of this rank T minus rank S minus rank S star, then it easily follows that the index of S is 1. And since the index of S star is the minus of index of S, we have this index of S is minus 1. So by the previous theorem, we can compose S with itself to increase the index. So we have this index of Sn is equal to n, and index of S star n is equal to minus n. So in particular, we know that the index map is surjective. So now we need to examine that like how its path connected component looks like, and whether each component is index inverse of n is path connected or not. So the answer is affirmative, and that will prove in the next part. So let Fn be the set of all elements that which is like index equal to n, so the Fn is path connected. So we first focus on if not is path connected. So since T is equal to F naught, so something for a statement that is proved in the polar decomposition lecture, you can find a partial isometry U naught size that like this the initial space equal to Cartesian and the final space equal to Cartesian. So define phi as the linear path joining T to T plus U naught. Now when T equal to not equal to phi naught is invertible because by definition of U naught and the initial space and the final space. And since the invertible for the kinetic subspace, so what I do is we join T to T plus U naught, which is invertible. Now it says invertible of the freedoms, we go from and freedom of index 0 because the rank kernel of both that and the dual is finite. So you go from that invertible operator to any other invertible operator, and from that you go to any other index operator. So this shows that F naught is connected. Now for any other F naught, note that if T is in F naught, then T S star dual is in T is in Fn, then T F star S star naught is in F naught, and vice versa. So Fn is equal to F star with composite Sn. So since F naught is path connected,
okay. One second.
Yeah.
So how do you get the double equality? 1 second. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. So it's like okay. So on direction is clear. T is in Fn, then T Sn star is in Fn from the previous limit. I mean both.
Sorry.
Both,
TF.
but I mean both first from the parts T of what I wrote, right? This thing. Part 3 of what I wrote, right? It so that's
Okay.
Right? Is it clear?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
So by the index, you are saying that this is in F naught.
Yeah. Because you already know the index of Sn is equal to minus n, so the index must add up, right? Add up to this.
Yeah. Okay.
So since if naught is path connected, the image of path connected component on the context of is path connected, so then we have this Fn is also path connected. And since F minus n is just nothing but the dual of Fn, and the dual is also a continuous term, then F minus is also path connected. So this characterizes the structure of how does the freedom space of freedom was used for a bound several Hilbert space. So you can think of as like like connected path connected components, and each of the path connected components giving you same index, and into freedom of same index can be joined by a path. So now we characterize how does the index zero operator in a Hilbert space looks like. So what the next term says is that if an operator is a third of index zero, then it locally looks like some T naught directs some nilpotent operator. So this is formalized by what is there next. So first you say that A is the algebraic sum of m and n, where m A is equal to m plus n and m in its nature. So it's the same as the direct sum, except that you don't require these to be orthogonal, but just some disjoint closed subspaces. So the remark is that this is equivalent to saying that we can just write z is equal to x plus y, where x is in m and y is in n. And note that if the continuous, if the above condition is satisfied, then there is a unique E in PH such that E of z is equal to x. And so you can define this operator set theoretically. So to show this is bounded. What to do is that define this operator set theoretically, then apply the closed graph theorem. From the closed graph theorem, it follows that this E is bounded. So anyway, so this E is a position operator since E is equal to E. Now we calculate the structure of a like zero index freedom operator by this following theorem. So these following conditions are equivalent on a operator that's like, so T is similar. T is similar like up to change of coordinate like so okay. So I one thing I forgot different what is similar operator here. So we said that two operator T and T1 and T2 are similar, like which in like the finite dimensional case is it's like we're just formalizing notion of change of coordinates. So suppose T is in P of H zone and T2 is in P of H2. So T and T2 are similar if there is an invertible operator S from like H zone to H2, such that T2 is equal to S1 S T2 S inverse, or like I think so essentially like, T1 and T2 are structurally same, but there's up to change of coordinates. So T is similar to the operator of this from T naught plus Q, with where n is finite dimensional, T naught is invertible, and Q is equivalent. So this is so, and this fact is equivalent to fact that T being fed up, the index being zero, and there is an n with this kernel. As in, if you look at the chain of this spaces, kernel of T, subset of kernel of T square, subset of kernel of T3, and so on, this chain eventually terminates. So the proof idea is that like so the main way how this proof goes is that like if the first one is true, then we like by the stabilizing condition we already have this index of zeta follows, because if you take the stabilizing chain, then this at that point you can consider dual, and the converse is also similar, because if you pick an m for this when it stabilizes, then you can just restrict the operator to that and you'll get this T naught and Q. So we move on to details of this proof. So if Q is nilpotent, then pick a large integer n such that Q of to the power n is equal to 0. So since you're already given that ST inverse is equal to T not equal to Q, so by just repeated composition, we get that ST inverse is equal to T naught Q equal to Q naught. So you can just see them by writing at the matrix form. Matrix form will be this T naught here and Q here of this T. So just multiply it some n times, so that you get this matrix form will be T naught n and Q n. Since Q is equal to 0 in this, so this STN S inverse is equal to T naught n dx sum 0. For higher m, since Q to the power m is equal to 0 inverse, so you get that STM S inverse is equal to T naught m dx sum 0. Now, since T naught is invertible, then T naught m is also invertible, and so this kernel of T is equal to this kernel of this entire space n. So what you have is this kernel of Tm is equal to kernel of Tn is equal to S inverse of 0 dx sum kernel of Qn for all m greater than equal to n. So this was the first part, that the kernel will eventually stabilize. And to show this is a freedom, note that this rank T is equal to S inverse of m plus T, and since S is isomorphism, and this Q is finite dimensional, so rank T is closed. And since so we are using three things here. Q is finite dimensional, so any finite dimensional operator is automatically like image of this is automatically closed now. And second thing, we're using that if you have a closed subspace and you add some finite dimensional subspace to that is also going to be a closed subspace. That is also clear. And S is the isomorphism. And isomorphism has closed subspace to closed subspace. So we combine these two, we get this rank T is it's a closed because rank Q is. And secondly, kernel of T is definitely finite dimensional because n is finite dimensional, and this rank Q is the subspace of kernel Q of subspace of n. So, and similarly, if you conjugate that, then you will get this is t star equal to what? T naught t is similar to T naught star direct sum Q naught. So connectivity is also finite dimensional. So here T is fed. Okay. Now for the reverse reaction, set MK is to rank of TK and NK is to rank of TK. So we have this chain of maps that MK the shrinking maps that MK shrinks and NK grows, in the sense that M1 is a superset of M2 is a superset of M3 is a superset of M4 and so on, and N1 is in a subset of N2 and a subset of N3 and so on. Now we'll take out the fact that so first thing on the inside is that this chain eventually stabilizes. The chain of N1, N2, N3, this chain eventually stabilizes. So, so I already know that by hypothesis that there is any size that n of this distance stabilizes from the hypothesis. Now we claim that Mn and Mn form a reaction of decomposition. So this should be algebraic decomposition, not reaction of decomposition of H. Now if Z is in H, then T of N in Mn by definition, and Mn equal to, so and Mn is superset of M2, and so it is also M2. There is V such that T of N Z is equal to T of 2 N T. So that's z minus Tn is equal to n, because if you compose that with T of n, then you get something that is equal to 0. So z is in y plus n, where you take the y component to be this Tn of v and x component to be this x. So now only thing that we need to left is to show is that this intersection is trivial. So that's also clear, right? Because if z is in the intersection of this mn and nm, then 0 is equal to Tnz equal to this T2 and x, where z is equal to Tnx. So x is in this n2n, which is also in nn, because n2n is subspace superset of nn, this change stabilizes. So z is equal to Tn of x equal to 0, because x is in n2n already, in nn already. So if you say T not equal to T equal to m and Q equal to P equal to m, then it's clear that this works, because it is finite dimension, that is clear. Q is important, that's also clear, because this cell stabilizes. T naught is invertible, that's also clear, because this if we apply T to it, then it becomes T naught itself. So T is both injective and surjective, hence it is invertible by the Brown and inverse theorem. Now now our goal is to calculate the spectrum of how does the spectrum of a compact operator looks like. So it claims that spectrum of a compact operator is like discrete with the only possible limit point being 0. So before we go on to proving that, let us prove this auxiliary corollary, which will be relevant to the main claim. So let K be in B naught of Ace, and assume that 0 is not in the, like, lambda is a non-zero element in the spectrum of this K. Then K is similar to this K1 direct sum A, where K1 is compact, K1 is a compact operator. So K is also compact operator. K1 is a compact operator. Lambda is not in the spectrum of K1, and this N is finite dimensional, and only spectrum of A is lambda. So if you apply, in particular, if you apply the Jordan decomposition to A, that will only look like it is equivalent to this block, like, only thing that you have in this lambda and this some Jordan block set. The proof is that, like, this basically follows from what I proved earlier. So we will reduce it to previous case. So note this operator P minus lambda I is freedom, because if you divide by lambda, that is equal to minus 1 by lambda times I minus k, and minus k is freedom. So minus k by lambda, so that is also freedom. So this T is freedom. With index of T is equal to index of lambda T. So for this, we are using part B of the proof, part B of the statement that we proved in the first part. And lambda, index of lambda is equal to, so for this equal to, we're going to part of the theorem that we proved in the beginning. And for this equal, that is clear, because this lambda is invertible. Now define n of is equal to kernel of T of n. Now, so first thing we will show is this sequence eventually stabilizes. If it doesn't stabilizes, then you can just pick x. If you just pick a suitable xn size, this is in this particular, then xn is like orthonormal. So by construction, so by the characterization of the compact operator, limit n of k xn goes to 0, because it is weakly, this is weakly non-continuous. On the other hand, if xn is in the kernel of if xn is the kernel of Tn plus 1, then T of xn is the kernel of Tn. So the inner product of kxn with xn is equal to lambda. So this is the contradiction, because if we apply Cauchy-Schwarz, then this norm of this is less than or equal to norm of kxn times norm of xn, but norm of xn is equal to 1 and norm of kxn is equal to 0. So that will show the lambda goes to 0, which is impossible. So this is not possible. So this kernels eventually stabilize. So with the previous theorem, you can find an invertible operator S such that ST is equal to T naught plus Q. So just pick k equal to t plus lambda, and then apply the similar map in inverse of the similar map. So you get k1 equal to t naught plus lambda and a equal to t naught plus lambda, and then you will come. So using this, you essentially get the spectral theory for compact operators. So let k be a compact operator. Then this the spectrum. Anything that is spectrum is eigenvalue. That is clear, because if you apply the previous theorem, then pick some vector at 0 in this component and v in the second component, where this v is the eigenvalue of this component a. So the lambda is the eigenvalue, and it's also isolated because you know this the complement of the spectrum is open set, and lambda is not the eigenvalue of the first component. So the spectrum is also isolated. Also, this algebraic multiplication of lambda is finite. This is also clear because the only component of the algebraic multiplication is coming from this second component. In the second component, the dimension is finite, so the algebraic multiplication is also finite. And 5k is countable set. That is also clear because it's a discrete set. Discrete is also the real numbers, and it's the real second countable. This one will be countable set. With 0 is the only possible limit point. This is also clear because any other set, any other thing cannot be a limit point by the previous theorem. So this is essentially clear. So now we'll just sketch an application of freedom operator, which is not in Schindler's book, so I guess it's not part of the. So this is something called the freedom operator. So freedom operator is useful in the solving this elliptic boundary value problems. So suppose A is a freedom operator, then so essentially suppose like in practice what happens is that you have A to be a differential operator, and to solve this equation A is some differential operator time, like you need to solve this equation so A in practice. So essentially we are trying to like evoke surjectivity here. So what we have benefit is that if A is known to be freedom, then
I didn't understand. What is that? A is a differential operator. What are you saying?
Yes. So if A is a differential operator and it's a
Can you
freedom
go a bit slowly because you are
yes, sure.
going very fast? Huh?
Sure.
So what is the situation? A is a freedom operator.
So yeah, A is a freedom operator, and suppose A is also a differential operator. You need to solve the differential equation. Like you need to find a function u such that A applied to u is equal to f. Essentially, you need to show that this map A is surjective. So if A is freedom of index 0, that is equivalent to saying that A is injective. Like this is essentially what the freedom alternative says. That then either if it's freedom of index 0, then either two things happen. Either B and D has trivial solutions, like and A and D you can solve for any f. But essentially A and
what is H? I don't understand. What is H?
What is what?
H. What is H? You are saying it's a differential operator. What do you mean by that?
So like for now it is a freedom operator. I'm coming to difference operator in the end. So for now this is just a freedom operator, and this is
assuming A is just a freedom operator.
Yeah, I'm coming to difference operator.
And you have vectors u, u0, something like this.
Yeah. So essentially I am to solve this equation A u equal to f.
Okay.
So if A is freedom, then two things can happen. Then if the equations B and equation D has trivial solution, then you are guaranteed to solve A and C regardless of what is F and G. Because like if A and A star are injective, then they are also surjective. Because there is freedom of index 0. Or what can happen is that if they have like n linearly independent solutions, the kernel is always going to be finite dimension because A is freedom. And then that's the kernel of A star is also going to be finite dimension. So if B and D star have if the kernel has dimension n, then A and C are solvable if and only if the vector F is orthogonal to the kernel, and similarly G is orthogonal to the kernel of this A star. So this is what is known as the freedom alternative. So as an application, consider this differential equation L of U is equal to F, where U is an element in this Sobolev space, A is on 0 of, and sigma is a like manifold with boundary. So we just take L to be this minus Laplacian plus x, so x is a first differential operator. And so what is the differential operator? So for now things locally looks like it is a function of this. If with suitable charts, it just looks like a linear function of this differential operator. F goes to d of df by dx, like a linear combination of that. So since the Laplace is invertible, take t to the inverse of that, and then if you take u to be equal to tv, then the equation becomes I minus htv equal to minus f. So we should solve this equation. Now by Rayleigh's theorem, this inclusion ht like a is inverse sigma to L square of sigma, that is equal to a is not of sigma, that is compact. So hence I minus xt is freedom because I is identity operator and identity plus a compact operator is freedom operator. So hence we have this corollary that given a faster differential operator x on sigma bar, the map lambda plus x is freedom of index 0. So hence it is surjective when only it is injective. So I guess I'm done with it. Does anyone have any question?
You have any questions? I didn't understand the last part, but that's okay.
I mean, the last part I just the application like why freedom of operators are used in practice, but that is not a
You use Laplacian something, no? But it's not
yeah.
a bounded operator.
Yeah, it's a Laplacian operator.
Can you explain it once more? I am also not sure.
Which one? This last part.
Yeah.
So last part
No,
essentially
your
what,
earlier F is L is delta plus X. What is? Huh?
yeah, the delta is a Laplacian. So if you have a Riemannian manifold, then you have a natural Laplacian operator on this Laplacian operator, which is a second order differential operator on this manifold. So you take L to be minus lambda plus X, and or X is the first.
Is it a bounded operator?
Laplacian is unbounded. Like it depends on how is manifold. It depends on manifold is compact and non-compact.
Yeah. So no. Okay.
So
you are not applying for that. You are applying for delta inverse.
Okay. So why is the okay?
So, but wanting the Laplace is invertible. Like you can construct a inverse of the Laplacian if it's compact. So let T be the inverse of that. See, my main goal is to reduce this equation to something that is related to the Friedel operator. So if you make substitution that T to be the lambda inverse of the Laplacian and set U to be TV, then this reduces to something that we recognize, like because X is already compact by Rayleigh's theorem. So this I minus xt, that is a Friedel operator. So your intention is finding the solution of this A v equal to F. So something of this from A. So this is how this Friedel alternative applies. I mean, so what happens in practice is that if you want to solve the differential equation, you need to know the solution exists. So it's sufficient to show that this number is injective. Like if you show this number injective, then you can't show the solution exists because it's going to be surjective as well.
Okay. So if you don't have any questions, do you have any questions?
And anything for previous parts, like I sketched up the details. So that any other problems over the details, I can elaborate further on this.
Any questions? You can ask during the discussion also later. Okay. I mean, you
So
can.
the reference that I used for this is the Sundar's book. So like whatever I did is with the last part, that is everything from the Sundar's book on operator theory.
Sure.
Yeah. So what did we show in the last two? We showed it as
This part, right? So last book,
No,
I
no,
just
no.
look at how the spectrum of a compact couple looks like. This one, right? This
No,
one, right?
no, I'm talking about the differential thing.
Okay, this part. This part is so that you need to find a solution. Like you want to know that a solution exists. We must know that it's sufficient on this map is injective. Because if it's injective, then it's also surjective by the Friedel alternative. So this is something a point is that Friedel operator is analogous to what we have for the fine dimensional case. For the fine dimensional case, you know that a map is like injective, if not surjective, right? By the rank theorem. So but point is this spaces H on of 0, this H on of space, this solar space, or this H minus 1, this is in fine dimensional spaces. But we have something analogous to the fine dimensional case with the operator's Friedel. So in that case, surjectivity changes if you know that it's injective and vice versa. And in practice, taking injectivity is far easier because like you can just and surjectivity is harder. So to construct a solution, you can just show that it's injective.
I see. Yeah.
So if there is no question, there are no questions, then I will stop.
So I'm stopping the sharing.
Okay.